Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm so excited today. I have a longtime friend circling back in, which is exactly what we're going to talk about, how good mission-driven humans somehow keep popping up in your world when you yourself are a mission-driven human. So I want to welcome Darryl Cohen to the mic. I'm going to give him a quick formal intro, and then we're going to dive right into friend level conversation because we have a really fun journeys and conversations to catch up on. But Darryl is currently the supply chain coordinator at Otto's Naturals, and he's an experienced individual with goal-oriented, focused ability to establish and maintain relationships through excellent customer service. He's highly motivated and dependable, exceeding established goals and objectives in relation to timeliness and management. He consistently achieves significant results related to critical thinking, attention to detail, organizational growth, while repeatedly providing positive results for employers and coworkers. Darryl, that's such a formal intro, but that is the through line, and that is you are such a team player. Welcome to T&T.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction. Couldn't have said it better myself. And you said it right there. You know, we succeed as a team.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's all it's about. I'd be nothing without you and the Otto's family, you know, John and Sadie, and everyone else who has helped me get to where I am, and we all grow together.
Well, and Darryl's an athlete at heart. If you listen to T&T, you know, I'm a longtime athlete. So like that sports mentality has always been there, and competing as a team is where I thrive. And as you know, like games, contracts, situations come and go, but you always kind of remember your teammates in Denver. But really the fitness, health, and wellness world is pretty small. So you kind of, the ones that are really the ones that go hard and stay in it, you keep crossing paths with. So Darryl and I have literally known each other, I think, has it been about 8 years? Does that sound right?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe longer. But we've seen each other grow and change because our journeys were really both just starting out at the same time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You were real big into CrossFit. I mean, you still are, right? And I was doing the martial arts thing, but I was a little curious. Like I was like, I want to learn about kettlebell swings and those kinds of things, you know, muscle ups and whatnot.
Yes.
But it really is. I mean, you even see certain things, right? Like on it, this mega kind of, but the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it's all over, like, you know, fitness and just kind of active, that active lifestyle. It goes hand in hand with, you know, psychology and spirituality and philosophy and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that I really liked about you, is not only did you have like the fitness piece down, but your energy, your mental health level was at such a high peak that I was like, man, this chick gets it. Like she knows.
Well, constant work in progress, but yes, the center, you know how it is. Like you're good, and then you're like, wait, what's going on in this world right now? But yeah, when you kind of keep your mind at heart. But before we even dive into that, because I think our journeys are something that neither one of us could ever have predicted, of like how, you know, different things we've done, how it started. But you were a mission-driven human quite literally early on, because you were delivering food. So you were delivering some of this positive energy. But give us a little bit of like young Darryl, some of your journey, so we understand some of the human behind the process.
Oh man, young Darryl was a silly boy. He you know, I've always been in so when we were young, my mother told us that we had to play at least one sport, and I responded by signing up for all of them. And she was like, okay, this is too many, like we got to pick and choose here, you know. So baseball, football were the main two, and you know, hockey, basketball, soccer kind of all fell off to the side. But then I kind of started to grow out of organized sports. It became more skateboarding, snowboarding, individual, a little more creativity, but still just always pursuing, and really community. You know, there's a community in your organized sports teams, and there's a community at the local skate parks and at the terrain parks on the mountains. And so just motivating each other to go bigger than what we think we're capable of, right? If we're hitting a ramp and doing a 360, you know, try and turn to a 540, whatever it can be, and motivating each other. And there's just this feeling when someone you're hyping up, you know, sticks a trick, you know, you get psyched for them. Again, whether it's catching that Hail Mary, whatever it is. And then college, you know, I actually kind of stopped playing a lot of sports, but I still motivated and driven. I worked full time and went to school full time. So I was getting up at 5 a.m. and driving trucks till 2 p.m. delivering food to restaurants. And then I was going to class from 2 to 8.
Wow.
I made my own major. You know, I kind of bounced around between from photography to political science and ended up landing on philosophy. And then my thesis was, you know, political philosophy. But graduated school, moved from Connecticut to Colorado, and started working for a bunch of different food companies, like pretty quickly, which grew into, you know, production manager, which grew into sales, which grew into supply chain, which grew into supply chain coordinator, and just doing so many bigger and better things. And even now, I passed the board exam for holistic nutrition, and I'm still, you know, got certified in connective tissue therapy along the way. And it's this just constant growth and learning, like you said, that kind of constant work in progress, right? It's a roller coaster. There's highs, there's lows, but it's a duality of positive and negative. Like you need to have one or the other. And well, it's great.
So I'm curious to know, because this is so cool, because I don't think people often see how big of a deal. I mean, at this point, we're way more conscious consumers. You can say you vote with your dollar, but how we're spending our money, our time, our energy, how we're fueling our bodies, it really does circle back to, you know, getting centered with yourself, understanding yourself. And I think people still kind of disconnect their personal and their professional life. And in some points that's good. But in other ways, they don't understand like how much time we spend with people we work with, and how critical those relationships are, how customer service is so critical, how we work with our team is so critical, and everything really is energy. And in turn, when you get to work with someone like Otto's, or a few of these companies you've worked with that are intentional about the fuel that they're putting out there, the people they're working, the way they're sourcing it. I mean, all those things, you can show up at work and know that you're doing a good thing and making the world a better place while at work. Like, I think people still separate that. How'd you find yourself kind of continuously in those like really special, magical roles?
You know, I think it has to do with my personality, just who I am as an individual. When you put yourself out there, right? It's, who is it? Mark Twain, or I'm gonna butcher this every time I try and go back and pretend like I actually know a thing. I mess it up some way or another. But you know, you have to fail in order to succeed. And so I do believe as humans, we have superpowers, and one of those powers is bring people together and smile. We have the ability to improve someone else's day in the moment. We make the choice, you know, whether or not we take things personally and how we show up. And it's not so much react, but respond. And so I truly, I believe my purpose here is to help others. And however that, you know, I guess in a broader sense, growth, right? Like, what are we doing here? I think when we're younger, we talk about, you know, one day I'll be grown up, right? We look at our parents, they're grown up. Like, we have this misconception that like, we'll turn 40 and just like know how to buy a home and certain things like that. And the reality is 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, this is still the first time you've ever been 80. Like, you might know how to buy a home, but there's other problems that you don't have when you're 18, right? So within that opportunity, I think I was raised and always taught to kind of just speak up where you see an area that can be improved upon, not to put anyone down, but just to provide another thought of efficiency. And that's why teamwork is so important, because there's tons of things I don't think of. There's tons of ways,
perspectives
that I don't think about, or see something done one way. You know, John and Sadie, the owners of Autos, are all like, I love the team meetings, because I'm like, oh, I was thinking about this. And they'll be like, yeah, but what if we added this? I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that. It's such a good idea. And so it's just kind of the opportunity, you know, I believe my point is, I guess where I'm trying to go is, we're all constantly growing and changing and evolving. It's not like one day we just like reach enlightenment, or we're just grown up now. Like, so
Right.
whatever we can do, the tools and the better people you can have at your table or in your circle to help you with those, we all grow together. It's not just one, no one can, knows all things. Like, there's constant information is changing and evolving. And so as opportunities arose, I saw a place where a hole needed to be filled, and I stepped up. And that's how I kind of went from one company to 4 companies back to a new company. They saw me doing all these things and they were like, hey, would you want to come do sales for us? I had no background in sales. Like, it was all self-taught, and I helped blow them up. And it kind of just, you see the opportunities that show up. And I believe we as humans want to help. Like, we
Yeah.
want to help other people.
Agree. I think that's so well said. And this is why I started Turmeric and Tequila, because I really wanted to highlight people like you in situations like this, because sometimes we want to be intentional in that, like, we've got this 5-year plan, we've got this 10-year plan, and we know what we want. And, this is how it's going to go. This is the job I want. I want to be married and have kids and da-da-da. But really, even when you show up and you're intentional and we know how to do that, sometimes you just have to keep showing up and be aware when opportunity presents itself and understand that we don't really know what's next. And even when you have control over a lot, which, I mean, newsflash, we don't really have control over that much. This is major news if you think that it's any other way. But
What
right, you kind of learn to let go as you get older, because you have to, but you kind of have to just keep the faith and keep showing up. Was there a point in your journey when you're like, was there a point where there was like this spiritual awakening of like, maybe I don't know what's going on, or I don't know how to do this fully, but I'm just going to keep showing up and be a helper?
Yeah, I think some days, right, it's that roller coaster. We don't feel it every day. Like, there's some days we're just not there, but also you kind of got to just surrender to the flow, right? Trust the process, put the smile on, show up, do your best job. And that's where the whole, personal professional thing can kind of get tricky, and you want to keep them separate, but they do blend together, especially when you pursue something you're passionate about. That's, if I was studying nutrition and understanding, sugar and certain things, artificial sweeteners, and how those affect us on a, biochemical level versus a single ingredient, baking alternative that's gluten, grain, dairy, soy, and tree nut free, allergen friendly. This company goes so far out of their way, you kind of just align with it. Like, it's almost, you want to watch them go, because then you're still helping people. We're putting an allergen friendly product on the market as we watch food allergies rise.
Yeah.
So it's not about like sales and making money. It's about how can we create something that will truly help people and put a smile on their face, and back to us all growing together. So there's definitely been times where I haven't, I know I'm moving in a direction. I also don't see the path as clearly. But I do believe on a spiritual level, the more you give, the more you open up to being able to receive. So sometimes or not even, it's all about that intention. So even if you're struggling, trust the process and what you're doing, and keep moving forward. And, the universe will provide. It always does.
Yes. I love the idea of, all boats rising. I think that's what I might even call this podcast, because when you show up, you are that team player, and I'm an athlete at heart. I'm a competitor, just like you. We have a long history of sports and competing. And yet in that space, you can be competitive and still hope that your competitor shows up 150%. So then they make you rise. Like, everybody gets better together, and that collective good is so critical. And I always say the humans you surround yourself are everything. We have had very different journeys, but somehow we've continued to circle back and have seen each other go in different journeys. Like, oh, it's this company, now it's this mission, it's this. And somehow we've always been like, what can I do for you? What's going on here? What's this? Or we know this, people in the same community, and they're kind of doing their own thing, and we've gotten a part of different causes. And it's just really good to continue to like cultivate that larger community, because it really affirms that you're a part of something bigger. And like you said, I think we're all here to help, and being a part of that like-minded situation, really, I think it keeps you inspired to show up even on those days when it's really, really, really hard.
Totally. And I think it teaches you humility. As competitors, obviously we want to win, right? Like, we train hard, we show up, but if our, opponent or whoever we're competing against isn't right or isn't on point physically, mentally, emotionally, we don't, we want them healthy. We all eat at the same table. Even though we compete against each other, we still succeed together. And keeping that perspective that just because we want to beat someone doesn't mean we actually want to see them lose in life. Right. And it teaches us how to grow, and we respect others and value different perspectives and points of view and ways of looking at things. And ultimately it builds a stronger community. And that's really what it's all about to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and it's been magical to see the journey in this business space. I'm deeply passionate, particularly in 2021, almost 2022, of how we spend our dollar and companies that we're consciously supporting as conscious consumers. And when I see companies going that extra mile, like you just said, and doing it things the right way, when I know it impacts their bottom line, and maybe they have to take less of a salary or hire less people and do more themselves, like it constricts potential profitable success. But in the long term, you guys are setting yourself apart miles, professionally, but in the way you show up in the world, because you're putting something out there that is actually good for people. And it's not just kind of this old school mindset of like, more is more, get it out there. Doesn't matter if it's healthy or not, whatever. And then there's like behavioral disorders that go along with it. And there's just such a larger conversation around food and business and how consumers can be conscious, that it's no surprise to me that I see you in one of these major front runners that are really shaking up the consumer packaged good game. Can you tell me a little bit more about Autos? And I think they need to be giving you gold stars, because you even came in the outfit today, which you're always like brand ready, like your role. I love it.
Gotta rep the set, right?
That's
like,
what's up. Yes.
I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for them. Not only from an employer standpoint, but a genuine friendship.
Yeah.
They're wonderful people. They started the company out of the need and desire for themselves, but also to provide it to other people. They noticed as they, as from my understanding, when Sadie became pregnant with Otto, who is the company is Autos, it's named after their son, in an attempt to find more of a holistic nutritional lifestyle, they started going, gluten and grain free. And they were traveling the world at that point, and they were doing a lot of things, helping build stronger communities and stuff like that, and found this, food is woven into such a ridiculously deep fabric of our beings. We eat when we're, we eat when we're sad, but we eat when we're happy. Food is a celebration.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
We get together, weddings, birthdays, food brings us together. And so I think that we all have experienced some sort of allergen-free food that whether it's the taste or the texture just doesn't quite replicate, isn't exactly what we're looking for. And especially if you have a food allergy or intolerance or whatever it is, and you're eating your, I got gluten-free stuffing at Thanksgiving while everyone else is, eating gluten-filled stuffing. And so there's a little bit of a, I don't know, left out. I don't know what the exact specific term would be. And so they found cassava flour and noticed how it could mimic real flour. And, the tree nut allergy-free thing was a huge thing for them. There's phytic acid in nuts. And so people who bail on grains and go start eating 6 to 12 servings of almond flour and nuts a day, end up with GI issues as well.
Sure. Okay.
So here they are providing this, complex carbohydrate that's tree nut free and subs 1 for 1 and grain free baking. But the texture and the taste, I mean, you got those brownies, right? And you got the little gift bag. Did you like them?
Thank you very much. So, I do a ton with brand ambassadors, and we help with everything branding, but how we communicate the brand ambassadors, build it out, whatever, including down the apparel and the swag. The box was gorgeous. There was the flower tool. I don't even know what it's properly called.
Yeah, the Danish whisk.
Yeah, the Danish whisk. There you go. It was right on the tip of my tongue. But no, I made the paleo brownies. Unbelievable. I would prefer them to quote unquote regular brownies. It was just beautiful. And the company, obviously I've dabbled in the consumer packaged goods space, and I'm a health human. I'm not on your holistic health wellness knowledge level, but I know enough to what you eat impacts how you operate and walk through this world. So to see that in such an intentional company, and then the product actually be really good, that doesn't always happen. And I'll still eat it sometimes, even if it's not that great, just because it's good for you. They're unbelievable.
And it's, so just to touch base real quick, 90% of your serotonin is manufactured in your gut. and 70% of your dopamine, right? So the hormones that make you feel good and motivate you. So it really does come down and they're discovering now that grains are linked to mental disorders like schizophrenia and stuff. The lectins in the grains, our stomachs don't digest, and it permeates the intestinal lining, puts blood in the food in the bloodstream, and causes all these problems. And so to have a grain-free baked good that actually tastes and mimics, and that's what their goal was. They wanted to find something to give back to the community so they could enjoy those things that they remember, right? Being a child, being a kid, and having that piece of cake that grandma made, and the amount of energy and resources that they have put into recipe development is insane. I'm next level. They have one of the things that always comes to mind is they developed it's an egg-free, why can't I? It's like a depression era cake because people were trying to bake, but they didn't have eggs. So they're finding ways to make things with ingredients that we wouldn't even have. Like they're just pushing the boundary, and they love, we get emails that just, thank you so much. I haven't been able to make anything like this since I was a kid. It tastes just like it. And you and I both know, right? You get the gluten-free or the whatever, and you're like, it's good. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's the same thing, because it's not. Right. We've all had that little taste texture difference in the allergen-friendly foods, but they have tried really hard to find the best way to do it, and they've completely knocked it out of the park.
The brownies are, you wouldn't know. And just like you said, once you when you eat like a normal, we'll say, you do get used to something. But I think once you slowly flip over, I eat pretty clean. I'm not as good as I once was, just not competing anymore in CrossFit. But like, I can tell when I'm off, like, especially on the holidays, like I can feel inflammation. I can feel a little more brain fog, and we won't blame tequila, but that probably has something to do with it. Add the
turmeric comes in. That's
put turmeric in the brownies with the tequila. But you can feel it. But then as I've gotten more clean ingredients and I've gone almost completely dairy free, because I don't really care that much about dairy, I actually prefer some of the cleaner ones now that I've normalized it in my own life, to where that's what I would prefer over this taste and texture of the nutritional space. So I think once more companies like you guys set that bar, I think you will slowly see that pendulum switch over, when then you go back to eating like Lucky Charms or something, you're like, oh, this tastes really weird now. Like it flips your mind.
So my local kickboxing gym, right? Surge Kickboxing up in Arvada. They do a boxing and beers once a month. And so we'll all work out together, and everyone will bring some sort of food, and then we have a big potluck. And it's nice because, right, there's parents on the one side and the kids learning karate on the other side, and we'll blend together and have fun with everyone, get to know everyone at the gym. And I actually, I made a brookie, which is exactly what it sounds like. You bake the brownies and put the cookies on top of it, right? It's a combo. Just, amazing. My inner child was like, this is what I wanted, and I brought it in and shared it with everyone. And one of the mothers at the gym who has 2 kids was like, wow, this is incredible what's in it. And it's 4 or 5 ingredients, cassava flour, coconut sugar, maple sugar, and eggs, olive oil. It's so clean. And she was like, this is grain free, like not even gluten free. Like this is great. This is incredible. She gave some to her kids are jumping up and down. And she was like, I can't go gluten free. Like it's too much time and effort and energy, and my kids want to eat good things. Can I have a bag of these brownies though? Like she was like, they'll eat these. I'll take this home. And that's the other thing, especially with the mixes, you add oil, eggs, and bake and mix, like they some vanilla, like they cut so many corners. They put so much effort into making it as easy as possible. And I think that's invaluable, because we've all baked at one point or another. And if you mess up the recipe, or if it doesn't come out, and they found that perfect blend of how to make something delicious, but not overbearing and still be fun. And so that to me is always the test, the ultimate test. If a kid can come up and eat something that is allergen friendly and still like it, because you're not going to get anything past those kids' taste buds, right?
Right.
So to watch their excitement is like, it's just that reaffirmation where it's like, nailed it. Like, it's awesome.
Well, and I think once, we had a lot of the conversation around how food and gut health attributes to brain health, behavioral health, once you start to modify some of these kiddos diets, and you can see, not always, because there is a place for medication and, of that Eastern Western approach to life. But once you start to adjust some of these dietary situations, you can see a behavioral change in kids. And I think if you even just start with a bag of brownies, like a small switch, and you just start to cultivate that conversation, because not everyone's as privileged as we are to even have that conversation or education around nutrition or even have any exposure. So when you start to see some of these things like in mainstream that can just facilitate a conversation, that's it, no major change. That's when I think you see such a massive step in the right direction to true like social change.
Yeah. Wow. Like you just hit the nail on the head. Because again, we are so blessed. Sometimes I'll be driving in my car and I'm like, man, I'm starving. I'll need to pull a step back and be like, dude, you're going to eat multiple times today and you're going to get to choose what you're going to eat. Like, you're not starving, Darryl, right? Like, I don't even know what that really means. Just blessed, privileged, grateful. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and again, kids, right? Like that's the future of the country and the state of the world and everything we're doing. And so if we can find certain things, it's crazy because before 1980, there wasn't a case of type 2 diabetes in a human under the age of 30. And now 40 years later, children under the age of 10 are dying from it. There is a direct link between an increase in sugar and sugar consumption and processed. And again, M&Ms, like what a time to be alive. There's just so much abundance and it's super cool. And there's the social stigma, right? If you're not eating junk food in school, then, kids are silly and we, society is just, but that extra level of compassion and just understanding when you find out that so much of your mental and emotional health is tied to your gut health and you switch certain little things,
yes,
you can, especially when they're young, we're really just training them how to go about treat others and really fuel and nurture themselves. There's such a disconnect with nutrition and humans in this country. We all wait too long to eat. We let our hunger ratings get too low, and then we get hangry, right? Like hanger is a term now.
It's real.
And it's so real. And I'm, guilty. I'm not above that in any, by any means. But we'll wait all day. Like, I just want to eat. And then we sit down and we're like, I need to turn on Netflix. And we're so disconnected with food. And so just bringing that awareness, Otto, their son, I was out there a couple years ago before COVID. We went out and got dinner and he was like probably 6 at the time. And he's like, do you have any organic ketchup? Like, he's like asking, these kids ordering for himself. I didn't even know what that was at that age. Like I was just like chicken nuggets or whatever.
Yeah.
Like and that kid is one of the most empathetic. I truly like, he gives, sage advice at such a young age that I can see it visibly, kind of how it impacts and grows, and it just leaks over, right? Like it bleeds in a positive way, because you impact someone in a positive way and they feel that joy and then they want to go share it with someone else, and again creates a stronger community.
Absolutely. Well, there's no influencer market like the mom dad market of some of these groups that get together. I've heard, so I'm not a parent, I have 3 dogs, but I've heard some of these like parental Facebook groups where some of it can get pretty intense and immature, and I'm kind of blown away with some of the stuff. But on the positive side, they will talk about recipes and Peloton workouts and everything. Like it's a pretty intense influencer situation. This is why I'm so deeply passionate about influencers. It's not about just slanging product and, do as much as you can, get as all the likes, be in a bikini. It's understanding that point of influence and how much our young people are impacted by that, because I think they are so receptive that some of them are actually changing and training their parents. Like, I don't know if you've seen this firsthand where you start to explain, cassava flour. I don't say it correctly.
Cassava.
cassava. I'll probably mess it up 10 more times, but cassava flour, and some of these other like things, you explain that to a kiddo that's new to cooking or eating or questioning conscious eating, where parents, it's like, I've always bought the Hershey's ones. I've done this forever. I think the kiddos really are receptive. And if they're training in CrossFit in high school and they're trying to optimize their performance and they're just questioning things on such a larger level that we didn't get because we weren't going up around it, I think that change will actually happen much quicker because it's more normal to them. Have you seen like kiddos be more receptive than parents in certain situations?
Yeah. So yeah, on a ridiculous level, from my own personal experience. So I'm one of 8, right? Children.
Oh, okay.
They're all step and half. So my parents had me and then split up and went on and remarried and had their own families. It's a beautiful, I'm blessed. I have 2 families. Like I got 2 moms, I got 2 dads, I got more siblings than I could ever dream of. And we all have wonderful relationships. It's when I was little, I always felt like that, like remainder. I felt like I didn't belong. But as I've grown, it like, my perspective change, open-mindedness and open-heartedness, I've really been like, wow, this is a beautiful thing. And so, passing the exam for board certification in holistic nutrition, and all of my siblings are athletes. Like we only get more and more active and athletic as we get younger. And so on my mother's side, feeding 4 boys is not an easy thing to do, right? Like,
Sure.
especially when we all play sports, we're just bottomless pits. And so my mom did everything she possibly could to feed us. And you got to do what you got to do, pasta and ground beef, right? You're not buying the expensive groceries because you're just like, you just got to feed them. And as we're burning through it, right? High metabolism, high energy, high active, high intensity or high activity lifestyles. So as I've started kind of going on my own health journey, right? Again, playing football, lifting weights, eating whatever I wanted, and then moving in Connecticut and moving out here and, discovering martial arts and yoga and grain-free lifestyles and anti-inflammatory, really. And now all of a sudden my training is on a whole new level. I've broken through that plateau I kind of just hit and couldn't figure out why. And so I've been trying to, I offer coaching advice. Like my mom will be like, oh, I don't feel so well when I eat this. Do you know what's going on? So I try and explain the benefits of sprouted versus non and certain things like that. She struggles, right? Because she's like, no, but I want this old style of bread that tastes, texture a little bit different. My younger brothers, I never tried to like push any of that on them because they're young and I know what it's like to have things pushed on me when I was young that I wasn't fully ready for or embodying. And they're like, they've taken upon themselves, like they reach out and they're like, so what do you think about these recipes? Or like, what, how can I find more aminos? Or like, I've been thinking about going gluten-free. And I'm like, dude, you're 18. Like at 18 years old, I would have been like, I was like, are you kidding? I remember being in college actually and talking to this dude and he's like, I don't eat dairy, having a 6-pack is too important to me, but could that influence their style? And I was like, I don't know, man, cheese is way too important. I couldn't give it. I'd rather just not have the 6-pack, but like be able to eat dairy. And personally, it doesn't have anything to do with the physical attributes, but I quit dairy, 7 years ago and my life has only improved for it. And that was in college, right? So for an 18-year-old, without me pushing on him to come up on his own and be like, hey, I've been thinking about making some changes to improve my lifestyle. I'm like, this, and that is, like you said, those younger generations see that and they want to take that action. They have that desire and motivation to move again, there's just so much abundance, like,
well, there's options now.
Take advantage of the opportunity. Yeah. Where we live and, Colorado's a beautiful state with tons of health conscious individuals. And if you're here, why not take advantage of it?
100%. And what like you said in the beginning, I really liked because food is so much more than just fueling nutrition. It's tradition and it's how we've grown up. And and some people's families' recipes are their family legacy. Like that's what they have that they pass on. So sometimes you're not just breaking up with what you want to eat and desires, you're breaking up with like tradition. So when you can have options that can make some of those traditions carry through, I think then with those that can even apply for less resistance. But on the flip side, if you're growing up with it, the traditions start off the right foot from the get-go. So you can just see this slowly kind of evolve. and see our kiddos just get that much farther ahead. Like, I'm so excited to see where some of our young people are, 20 years from now, what they're talking about. Because if we're talking about this now, like what they're going to be talking about when we're long gone and what they're forging through, because I think their process is just going to be so much faster.
I had like a 2.5 hour phone call with my youngest brother last night. And he is telling me stuff about personal and spiritual growth that he's 20.
Yeah.
I am learning now at 33. Like if I had those tools, I was like, dude, you're going to be able to fly. You're going to be able to levitate. Like you are going to crack the code. If I'm figuring this out now and moving in the right direction, you're capable of doing it at this age.
Yeah.
You're going to be unstoppable.
Yeah.
And there's no way he's the only one, right? That's just in my immediate experience and personal bubble. It's all over the place. And
Agree.
and I think there's some traditions, right? Traditions are important and the reason why we carry them on, but also it comes time for some things for us to take a look at ourselves and be like, you know what? Maybe why this started isn't exactly why we should keep it going.
Right.
It's good. It's that constant growth. We have to look in the mirror and at ourselves. Otherwise, how else will we grow?
Yeah.
And continue to learn and evolve, educate ourselves. And so the fact that they're motivated and doing it at this young age it's inspiring. If anything, which and being the eldest, I wanted to be that like pivotal force for my younger siblings, right? And now I'm learning from
They're
them.
advising you.
And it's just the most beautiful, like reciprocating experience because they're giving back. And again, that's what I feel like we keep coming up on the same word, but that's what community is all about. Is not one person teaching everyone one thing or what. It's all of us learning and growing and coming together and kind of molding and blending ideas and creating our own truths and thinking for ourselves and moving forward and helping others. And again, that generating reciprocity.
Yes. Amen. I love it. And I love that you have, 7 other humans that are looking up to you, and in turn they can come back. But I think, I'm also the oldest. I have 3 younger brothers. I think it's a lot, what we say, but it's so much in what we do and how we walk through this world. Again, why I'm so passionate about ambassadors and influencers, because it's not just what humans that you're bringing in for your company or for your gym or whatever, do and say. It's like how they actually show up, how they train, how they work, little things like how they help somebody across the street or little actions. Like I think they can see you in your volunteering and the way the companies you work for and the way you speak about nutrition and the way you live. I think the way you can preach all this stuff about motivational speakers, and then you watch people go home and they're like eating burritos and not working out, and it's like, okay, well, that was a really good TED talk, but like what else? I can see the full circle now. The kiddos can see through everything. Like if it's not a whole picture of like the whole human, then like doing one thing right almost doesn't even matter. You got to kind of have an approach that's similar to all things in life.
Totally. My old master instructor in Muay Thai would always say, if you came in and I wasn't doing this myself, it would be so much harder for you guys to go home and practice your katas and do the things that I'm teaching you. And same thing with nutrition. If I'm studying holistic nutrition, but my mom always makes fun of me. She's like, you're junk food junkie, right? Like you're in the closet eating Twinkies. I'm like, I'm not doing that, Mom.
Right.
But it's embodying, and that's honestly why I chose the school that I went to. It's because it embodied the pyramid, the science of nutrition, as well as the psychology and spirituality. And it really, that mind, body, soul connection. I feel like the world has a lot of society today. There's a lot of conflict, right? Like we want to do something, but we know we shouldn't, or vice versa. We don't want to do something, but we feel like we should, especially with COVID, getting together with families around the holidays, especially if you have, I'm very blessed, grateful. My grandparents are still around. The last thing I would ever want to do is do anything that's going to have a negative impact on that, so we got to be thinking about other people. It's not just about how is this going to benefit me, but I might have to take the back seat in order for it to benefit someone else, and us being okay with that, right? Acceptance. And because again, it's we are one, and so that there's not a lot of room for selfishness. And so as you embody, if I was one example, if I was trying to do nutrition coaching for you, but I wasn't aware about the tradition around food, and I was like, you can only eat iceberg lettuce, you'd be like, dude, I am miserable. Like there is nothing enjoyable. Isn't food supposed to be enjoyable? And so we need those kind of things now. We have to take that holistic approach. And a lot of times in my experience, that means removing our ego.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter about how this is going to impact me, but how is this going to impact others? And really it allows us, I'm a big fan of like, some cognitive behavioral therapies and positive affirmations,
Mhm.
right? Because, and helping others, even, I am strong, I am smart, right? Like whatever it wants to be and grows and evolves, because we constantly need to be doing that for ourselves. We need to give ourselves not just that science-based love, but the psychological and the spiritual love, right? Sometimes we're very brain focused, and that's, I guess, anyway, sorry, this is kind of a disjointed rant now.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. That's what we do.
Yeah, but it's the blending, it's the blending of the mind and the body, as opposed to the separation of it, because that's when we start to become more whole and holistic ourselves.
Mhm.
And leading with, I've been a big fan of open-mindedness for a long time, but recently I've been on a big open-heartedness. Don't
Okay.
overthink it, overfeel it. It's
Yeah.
okay to feel.
Yes.
It's good to feel. Thinking is where we get in our own way, but when we feel, the heart doesn't lie, it always leads us in the right direction.
Amen. And it's so funny. Every cast I have, I swear, I'm like, I know I'm going to learn something, but it's like every conversation I have, it's something going on in my world that's right on time, and overfeel it. I'm so with you. Cause I've been open-minded, I think, as humans as we can be, and it's progressed because I'm conscious with it. Cause by nature, I think we judge, and it's almost as like an ego, like to keep yourself kind of safe type thing.
Totally.
But the feeling, I mean, and this is what I love again about our kiddos. They're so much more aware and privy to the mental health and wellness game that we're just now catching up to. They get it. When you talk about mind body balance, the turmeric and the tequila put together, they get it because they know and they feel it. And I, as an athlete, you learn to compartmentalize and shut off. And I've had to even consciously quit compartmentalizing, feel it and let it be, and trust your gut. Like, we know this and we feel it, but I think I'm like you, where I always kind of like believe in the good of people, and that hasn't always served me, but I'll always err on that side. On the flip side, recently, I've even had to be like, something just doesn't feel right. I hate to say icky, but it feels like that. Like something's off enough. So it goes both ways, but that intuitive compass is everything.
Totally. And if we stop overthink, I can't tell you how many times that's like, if I had my middle name would be, overthinking, because I'll get that icky feeling. And sometimes it's good, because I'll ask myself, check in, what am I resisting?
Yeah.
What is coming up right now to make me feel that way? Typically it's something that I'm like, nah, I'm a pretty good, judge of that. I like intuitive in that sense. But if I overthink it, I'll end up fantasy football is the one. I know not to start a guy, but then I'm like, I overthink it and I do it, and I end up making the wrong decision. And so that, that continuity, like you said, the timing of everything, and leading with that heart space, it's always there for us.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes it's, when you're in traffic, right? We start getting all tense and stressed, and so cut me off, and then, but pulling ourselves back and being like, I really just hope they get to where they're going safely.
Yeah.
And we all, right?
Well, and
that's
remembering we're traffic too. Like, you're in it. I had this good headspace the other day, of like, when in traffic, remember that you're also the traffic. And it's like, oh yeah, you're right.
Right, exactly. We are part of it. It's not like traffic is occurring around us and we aren't part of it. Like, it's
Right.
all that one big community, the sense of us doing, us separate, doing something together.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, again, it's kind of that theme of all boats rising. When you're taking care of yourself and you're conscious and balanced, and you can provide maybe some of that space and gratitude, removing the ego and letting it be, that provides space for someone else to rise with you. Or if you're in need, it kind of comes, hopefully someone else is doing that so it can come to you. Like, there's this flow. One of the things I really talk a lot about, in the importance that I've learned over time, I think we've probably learned this doing, different kinds of jobs with people, and a lot of it's relationships. Keeping really good people and like-minded humans around you that push you, but really like understand questioning that better way. It sounds like Otto's has really lucked out, like deeply lucked out, finding you, because you're so intentional in how you walk through this. But I want to hear how like open-minded and like-minded, it sounds like they are extremely similar to where you're at, but how they are. Cause like, to find this like mutually beneficial relationship in a professional situation is truly a gift, especially right now when you can't hire anybody.
No, so they, you know, we met. It's so funny. We met at
Was it
Paleo
Paleo
Effects
Effects?
in
Yes, I remember
Austin.
this. Yes.
And it was when I was working for WB, and
Okay.
they had like just had auto. I don't even know if they remember meeting them, and I certainly didn't make the connection. But I was just kind of walking the show floor, and they were like, "Hey, you know, here are grain-free tortillas," and I was like, "Tortillas? I haven't had a tortilla in years. Like, this is awesome." And you know, had a little bite, said, you know, introduced myself, and walked away. And then a few months later, we both ended back up at the Naturally Fit Games in Texas, which
Okay.
it was a really cool event. There was, you know, bodybuilding and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and there was some other stuff. I was the only person at my booth, so I couldn't go. I couldn't go anywhere, right? I couldn't check it out. I was literally like processing sales on my laptop and talking to people at the same time, setting things up, and you know,
As you do. Yeah.
making moves. Yeah, it's what we do. And
Every day.
they were my neighbors, and we're talking just like neighbors do, right? You know, and getting to know each other. And they left and got food and came back with food for me.
Oh.
Like I didn't ask, they didn't say that, like we were just having a good time getting to know each other. And they were like, "Here, you know, you're running around here. Here's some food." And it genuinely just blossomed into a friendship. Like you know, that is something a good friend would do. And here they are, the second time I've ever met these people, with the first one not being very consequential, right? Like you wouldn't think that at that point it was more neutral, not good or bad. It was just, I was walking the show floor and meeting cool people with cool products.
Yeah.
And here they are buying food for me and taking care of me and making sure that, right? For they don't have anything to gain from that other than the genuine kindness of their hearts.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and then you know, things with WB didn't work out, and they called me, and they knew that I was doing sales because we got to know each other, and they were watching me kind of run circles around. I don't know if I was running circles around the trade show, if the trade show was running circles around me.
It's a balance.
You know,
It's both.
Yeah, exactly. It was and they reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in training their new sales guy, and we got together and had a couple days. They came out to Colorado. We talked a lot about business and how we could grow together, and they brought me on. I was probably doing, you know, a couple days a week. I think I got them into like 110-ish out of 130 natural grocers within an extremely short period of time.
Wow.
And at that point, like, their supply chain coordinator had left, and they asked me if I knew anything about operations. And I said, yes, of course. And, you know, again, everything else, the other food manufacturing and all those, I've worked, you know, I know what it's like being in food production. I know what it's like being on the warehouse dock. I know what it's like driving trucks. I know what it's like ordering ingredients and all blah, blah, blah. Right. So here came this wonderful opportunity that just kind of blossomed into this. And, you know, my cat passed away not that long ago, and they sent me a snake plant for him. Like, it was like this is, I don't know where I'm going with this, but my point is, you know, I've experienced trauma just like we all do in loss. And they're always the first, as important as obviously growing your businesses and finding people to work for you and move together. They're the first to be like, take a personal day. Every time that, like, they'll call and check in, and we'll talk on the weekends. And from a professional standpoint, on the weekends, I don't want to be bothered by my job, right? Like, I work during the week, I'm off. Again, that's that compartmentalization. And so to be able to have something that's so fulfilling, and I know on such a deep level where they genuinely want to see me succeed, as opposed, while they still want their businesses to succeed. Again, it just kind of creates this reciprocating environment. They help me, and truly in turn, I only want to do a better job for them. I only want to help them more. And there's no ulterior motive other than them wanting to see me succeed, which is just the most beautiful. It fills my heart with joy. I wouldn't be who I am today without them. I also wouldn't be where I am today without them.
And you attracted that, like how we started this conversation talking about how food's traditional to way more nutrition, and this whole relationship started off of a gesture of fuel nourishment. Like, we got this for you because we saw you might be in need.
which is, and again, and then a few months later, they called me and they're like, hey, we're kind of in need of something. And I was like, let me come help you. Let me repay the favor. How can I give back? Right. And that's how we build each other up. And I think now probably forever, but now even more so, we need that even more now, like building it. This is the time to do this, where we all rise up together and build each other up, as opposed to break each other down, because we're all too fragile and important, and life is too valuable. But ain't nobody got time for that. We're here to grow together.
Well, we talk about business, and number one, I'm really sorry to hear about your kitty having 3 dogs. I know our animals are everything, so I send you love in that space, because it's a big deal. But I also think energy all circles back, so you shall be reunited.
Oh yeah, I'm just slowly becoming a cat myself. That's all.
Perfect. And I
Laying in the
believe you.
sun,
Clinging to the wall and jumping on the couch a little bit weird. Yes, that's exactly. I mean, animals are influencers too. I think I behave more like my dogs as time goes on. So never underestimate the power of the behavior you are around. But I think it's, as businesses, we get so intentional of this. Success is money, and we need to be profitable. And obviously the lights don't stand and things don't move if we don't keep the money coming in. However, the only finite resource around us is time. So if you're not enjoying that journey in getting to that money, that big payoff, that big paycheck, it sucks. But more importantly, if you get that and you get to be around humans that you love, that love you, and that you bleed because they bleed you, and everybody gets to show up and everybody wins, that's that's so much more important than money. And I know everyone's gonna be like, man, I want to get paid. I get it. But that beautiful journey of having the whole journey alongside the teammates that you really want to compete with is everything.
And that's, you hear celebrities, people with money. I don't know what that lifestyle is like money beyond, right? Like, are any
Big
reason
money.
and they're like, I have it all, and why do I feel like I have nothing?
Yes.
Versus, I have a wonderful life, and sure, there's always more to be had, but to me, being able to have a relationship and call my boss, going through the loss of my cat and other things where I'm, and they're like, dude, take time off. Like, don't worry. We're going to that, to me is invaluable, where money has value, but that you can't put a price on compassion and empathy and love and support. I think that's right. The support, that circle. In my opinion, don't get me wrong, we all love having friends, but it's quality over quantity, right? Those good friends that are truly going to tell you what you need to hear, and not kind of, worry about whether, again, don't be cruel and offensive, but the ones who give. I'm a firm believer in tough love. That has been one of the greatest teachers in my life. And when I was younger, I didn't really understand it, but if you do it in a mindful enough way, that's how you help others thrive and break through their own glass ceilings and become better versions of themselves. And so that support is so crucial within that circle and that team.
Yeah. Well, and if you've worked with a lot of companies, obviously I've had tons of contracts being a consultant, you really get to see how it could be like the big company I've always desired. And then I see the culture and the infrastructure, and I kind of knew, and this is where I began learning this. My gut, I'm like, this probably isn't ideal. Get in it. This definitely isn't ideal. Now you're in it and you're like, shit, I'm not only in it, I'm reverberating their brand and their gospel. Like, this isn't good. So you have to, as you get older and you grow, you understand boundaries and intuition. And you're like, not everyone is a customer. You don't want everybody's money or everyone's business, because it can change your energy and your mission and your path. You've got to be so conscious to kind of see it and pull back, but then recognize when it is good. Cause it's pretty hard to find, I think, professionally. Like, we have some growth and new dialogue coming on, like how you can be a mission driven business and be successful. Some companies don't like the woo, the energy. It's too much. And it's still kind of that hardcore corporate culture. So you got to be really just conscious, but super recognizing it when you're blessed, when you find it. And it's really an incredible space.
And that, yes, so much. Yes, because they, again, it's not to them. It's not about sales and money, and so corn allergies, right? Which, and again, I'm still learning. I'm always learning. If I know one thing, it's that I know nothing.
Totally. Philosophy. Yeah.
And that's, so corn allergies, I guess, are more of a molecular thing. So xanthan gum is something that can be used as a cleaner on manufacturing equipment. But people who have corn allergies can't, because xanthan gum can be derived from corn. Even though it doesn't come in contact with any corn, since it's a molecular derivative, it will still cause an inflammatory or allergen response in people. So this company has literally gone out of their way. They've started hand packing 15-pound bags of cassava flour, so with dedicated scoops and bins, so they don't actually come in contact with any machinery that has anything to do with xanthan gum or corn derivatives. So they literally, they just want to provide people who struggle to find that, reconnect with that joy of eating, give them something so they can still get it and not have to worry about what it's come in contact with. And that to me is such an incredible, above and beyond, right? Like there are some companies, sure. Like, I'm not saying everyone's bad, but like, that's something you don't necessarily see very frequently. And so to be a part of that and to know their mission and to listen to them and see it being done, right? Actions speak louder than words. And it's just so fulfilling and just aligns with everything else. Because if they're doing it and I'm part of it, then I'm doing it and we're doing it together and
you're talking people about it. Like,
you bringing me on here. Like, are you kidding me? You know, again, I'm so grateful. Like, it's what an absolute opportunity. And if you would have ever told me that, like, A, I'd be doing this for them, or B, being on a podcast with you, if you told me this 5-10 years, I'd be like, no way. Like, this, I don't know where my life is going, but I got a hard time seeing it ended up in that direction. Versus finding something you're passionate about and diving into it. And it might not always be everything. It's not always going to be the same. But you never know where it's going to lead you to. And so just be, actively being conscious and trying to give back and mindful and empathetic. And, the world is healing, but it needs us to do it right. We all got to do it together. And just what a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, energy is everything. If I knew like 8 years ago, I'd be like, what's a podcast? I mean, tequila sounds cool. Turmeric is cool. Like, I don't know, like, this sounds a little bit crazy, but I think there is reason it kind of like comes back and comes in flow. And a pro tip, I love that you so eloquently highlighted doing the right thing just because you should and it feels good. The good thing now, in 2021, soon to be 2022. This is a pro marketing tip. And I say this from heart space, not from business space, but it's the perfect example of if you're doing the right thing. I tell companies all the time, just tell it. You don't need this big marketing plan, spend all this money, do the right thing. And that stands out in itself. It will get reverberated. And in turn, it's not only just like marketing and spreading the gospel, it's spreading authentic heart space gospel. So people are more likely to spend more on it, understand, want to be part of this team, want to wear the shirt, rep the brand, go tag it on social media. Like, the entire marketing world changing, and it's growing. And the good news is, when good companies are doing the right things, it's no longer just lost and they get to go home and sleep at night. Now everybody gets to see it, and they can turn down marketing dollars and marketing budget, but what they're doing in turn is doing the right thing, and from that you have your marketing piece. So it's this whole flip that's happening, and it's actually real.
And to your point, as companies grow, right, scopes change, right? As you go from, I'm in a few mom and pop stores, to Otto's got launched nationally in Whole Foods, which Whole Foods operates on a regional, right? You got to prove to them that you can perform in your local region before they'll open you up to other regions. And so the fact that they went national, things change, right? New products, things change. Your role they're still at these trade shows. Sadie is still answering directly customer questions about, how can I improve this recipe? What are your thoughts on this? Like, it's at no point have they ever been like, I'm too big for this, or like, we're going to hire someone to go do it, because of truly how invested and meaningful, how connected they really are in all of this, which as a young, impressionable individual and growing and I love the idea of entrepreneurship, right? And creating a product to help others and employing other people. Like, what an amazing opportunity, right? Giving back to the infrastructure and the, capitalism, the economic thing that America is. Like, what the fact that they're still doing it, to me, truly demonstrates like where they're coming from, where their intention, how it's heart and not dollar driven, and not it's that, again, like you said, like that is the marketing is within them. Like it's not this
It's just telling the
outsourced.
truth.
It's and is what better thing than that is there?
Hey, and isn't it cool that we kind of get to be on the front lines of this in some capacity? Like we've seen the other way. Now we see the new way, and we get to be part of the vehicle that kind of further propels this all forward. Like it's all, university is a tricky SOB. Like you look back and you're like, oh man, it all worked out, or it's all on time. It's not easy, but it's all kind of on time. And it's like, damn, okay, I'm listening, I think.
I know, and I'm, again, I know I keep saying it, but like blessed, grateful.
Yeah.
Like there's the fact that I'm helping people again in this time with food allergens, and working for a company that genuinely wants to just give people an option that they feel like there might not be one, and do these things. Even you, like last year was a weird year.
Yeah.
And even this year, which is somehow almost over all of a sudden, which I don't know, I'm in a daze. I'm still, my head is still spinning, like, what month is it? Where are things? Like, to watch you. So, right, that competitive, motivated, things have changed. Gym shut down, right? Like things got kind of more different than they have been in our lifetimes. And here you are creating this podcast, like still just working forward, like making it happen. And it's invigorating. And to know that you are connecting these people who all have similar journey. Sometimes that's all we need.
Yeah.
Right. Like we know that they're out there. We know we're not the only one, but how do we go about, whether it's the networking or the searching or the email, the cold calling, right? Connecting. Hey, I noticed you did, like, sometimes the time and energy, especially when you're answering all of your customers' questions, and to see you do this and reach out and bring people together is an incredible, like, it's so awesome.
Well, thank you. Deeply received. And that means so much coming from you, because I know how in tune you are with things, universe energy, and intentional. Bottom line, you're just a good dude. Like people, I think, look over the compliment of just being a good person. And it's true, because there's a lot of things you can dodge accountability in this day and age, but you know how people move through this world and how they operate. And it's not just, coaching or teaching or jobs. It's your pets and your kiddos, and like how you show up, and being around that energy in itself is a blessing, and that kind of vibe. And it's again, kind of that running theme of this conversation of all boats are rising, because if you got good energy, that brings me up. And like, hopefully if, vice versa, it's like, we haven't talked in a long time, but then the second I hear from you, I'm like, oh, my dude, like this guy's crushing. Of course he's hustling. Like, of course he's out here. Like, this is what's up. And it literally inspires me to be like, level up, come on, let's do this cast. Let's get in it. What else do you want to know about? Let's learn more. It's just this constant flow of positive energy that is truthfully just a blessing.
Yeah. Samesies. Like, right. I couldn't agree more, because, and that's, again, we haven't talked in a while. It's been a weird year or two. And you were the first person that came to mind. It wasn't like I wonder what KO is going to, they launch these new mixes. And I was like, KO's got to try these brownies, man. There's, like you said, that there's something about that, like maple coconut sugar that like adds this shape. They're incredible. Yeah. And I was like, she's got to try these. Like, and it was the same thing, pick up right where we left off. It's not that things dip down. But when you're resonating on that frequency, it's, we're all here to help and share. We're not here to be like, find the, whether the enlightenment gem or orb or whatever it is, and we're just gonna go hoard it for ourselves, right? Like the ring from Lord of the Rings or whatever. Like, no, we're here to share it, the love and light, and spread it around to everyone, because when we're good, other people are good. When other people good, and we just build ourselves up through that process.
Yeah. It's energy. I mean, it's everywhere. It's abundant. Like, there's no need to compete for it. And when you walk that way, it's good. And you can tell your mom you're not sneaking Twinkies, because you have the freaking paleo brownies that are even better. So
I know, it's so great. I haven't had baked goods in years, and like I can finally eat them again.
Yeah.
And they're delicious. Yeah. So that's the thing, right? Like, going gluten and dairy free, and honestly refined sugar free, like just anti-inflammatory.
You are good. Okay.
There. What'd you say?
I said, you're good. I'm pretty good, but I'm not on your level yet, but I'm aspiring, because I'm really starting to notice in different training things. I'm like, we got to get back in the mix here.
I mean, just because I have nutrition dialed in doesn't mean I don't have other things dialed in that I'm sure
Okay,
you do.
good.
It's all the balance and the trade-off.
Yes.
But you know, I've tried a few baked gluten-free, whatnot baked goods, and they just didn't hit home. Like and at that point, I was like, man, you know, kind of studying sugar and the negative benefits and the just how the excess consumption has changed. I was like, nah, I'm cool. I've eaten enough baked goods in my lifetime. I don't need to, you know, I don't need cake and for the value of life to, you know, I've had cake. I know what it is, but I also know that, you know, sugar consumption leads to depression, and I don't need anything that I'm just constantly trying to fight. You know, being mentally healthy and on point is work in and of itself. I don't need anything that's going to work against me in that sense.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they initially, when I started working for them, I think even before I started working for them, they sent me a bag of cassava flour. It was way before I started working for them. And I made banana bread with it. And when I was a kid, banana bread was again, those recipes, right? My grandmother's, my mother's,
Yeah.
like that was my thing. And so to be able to make it again, and after not having it for so long, but have that taste and texture. And I was like, this is banana bread. This isn't some sort of banana bread alternative where I don't enjoy it, but like it. And so to get these mixes and be able to make them and finally have brownies again, but brownies that I enjoy, like truly, it takes me back. And then to take them to other people and they're like, I could never get my kid to eat this and my kid is eating this.
Yeah.
Right. Like it just creates such a sense of fulfillment and enjoyment. Again, food is meant to be enjoyed. That relationship with food is a very, very delicate thing. And it's dysfunctional. We live in a world where, I mean, again, to order a pizza from your phone on a credit card, like a lot of people don't have those opportunities, and we're just disconnected. We're not, you know, 99.9% of our lifetime has been hunter gatherers. And especially with COVID, we're not hunting or gathering anymore. Like we're disconnected from the work that we had to put in for it. And so the sense of value has kind of dipped down along with that. And I think food is very romantic and should be romanticized in our lives because it's fuel. Like without it, we would cease to exist, right? And it brings us together, and it's celebratory, and it's to be able to have baked goods and enjoy them. Man, like and it's great because I can bring them to like family things now. My family is just like, you know, all families, I'm sure, as they're eating the donuts, they're like, you don't want this? And I'm like, I mean, I want it. Like, it's not that and they're like, you're fine, eat it. Like, to finally have something I can eat and know that it's not going to completely derail me over the next few days. But enjoy it too. Like that's what it's all about. And the fact that they've made this happen is, you know, I'm grateful to be part of such an incredible, well-rounded, all the way around team.
Well, I assure you this, even if they hired someone like me that's really good at finding the right human, they could not have found a better supply chain master, but also brand ambassador. Like, you are truly a part of the family, and the authenticity where you can reverberate their gospel is everything. So you're doing all the supply chains, like taking over Whole Foods world, which I'm totally here for. And then, you know, going to family Christmas and changing up the recipe traditions. Like, there's like massive ripple effects in this that, again, it's like rippling through that change. So I don't doubt that they honor and acknowledge the impact you have personally and professionally in the world, but it's really cool to see it full circle. And I hope people listening to this can see that your job can be like this, like your workspace and your heart space, and all of it can exist together with boundaries, and be a really beautiful complement to your life. Because again, time is all finite, so we got to pay attention to what's going on in this journey.
Yeah, you know, again, just so much yes, on the same page, just truly resonate with everything you're saying. There was a TED Talk I watched a while back, and the guy was talking about lollipop moments. And I can't remember the exact story, but he did something to someone and it changed their life, and he had no recollection of it. To him, it was just a genuine in the moment, gave him a lollipop, and that lollipop sent that individual on a whole new path in life. He ended up running into him later on, and they were like, the lollipop. And he was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right. Like it completely. And so the point of what I took away from all that is you never know what opportunity could be that lollipop opportunity. And so anytime something comes up that resonates within you, that you get that like, oh, it might be there's a difference between nervousness and ickiness, right? And
Yes.
our nervous systems don't quite understand the difference. All they feel is that spike into sympathetic nervous system. They're like, this is weird and we need to survive right now. But if we're able to kind of feel it out and the difference between the two, we never know how much the smallest act could truly change someone's life.
Yeah.
And if you would have told me that meeting them at the trade show and then being next to them and all these things would have amounted to this, and same thing with you, right? Like meeting at a CrossFit games or whatever, it's some sort of,
and it was like a little mini event. I think it was
holiday,
something silly.
And I think it was like DSR, not even necessarily maybe around food at the time, but I'm like recovering from training. And yet it became this where like, you never know how those little catalysts can truly like just, blossom into something so much greater. It's a beautiful thing.
Completely agree. Well, I want to be sensitive because I know we can save the world in an 8-hour conversation, but we got to catch up IRL as well. But Darryl, I want to know where can we find autos? Where can we find you? Are you going to be doing more nutritional stuff like speaking or Instagram stuff or blogging or anything like that?
Yeah. I just nutrition wise, I just launched my website.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, catalystcolorado.com. Repair your relationship with food.
I didn't even know about any of this. This is amazing. Okay.
That's what yep. And I'm partnered with Surge Kickboxing in Arvada, which is a phenomenal, 30-minute high intensity interval training. One amazing trainers, Mike, the owner, and Taylor, the lead trainer, manager, whatever. They're phenomenal friends of mine, great people, great trainers, have cultivated an incredible community of people who work out there. Mike teaches, karate to all of their children. So I'm doing nutrition and connective tissue therapy at the gym. And then, for autos, just straight up taking over the world. You can find them in Whole Foods nationally. You can find them at this point. I'd be willing to, say pretty confidently in almost, if not all, natural grocers. And tons of different chains, local mom and pop stores. They've even started branching into the conventional market, which is really cool. Their headquarters is in New Jersey, but we're, they're everywhere. The website, autosnaturals.com, you can obviously find everything there. Right now, you'll probably be able to find the mixes more there. They're just starting to go into distribution, and those kinds of things usually take a month or two, right? Like the truck got to pick them up, get it to the DC, get it to the store,
the whole thing,
category resets and blah, blah, blah. You know how it's a process. But yeah, so nutrition, helping people, spreading the good word of autos, and growing together, succeeding together.
Dude, I love this. You truly are a whole human approach. I forgot it's soft tissue, but go check them out for health, wellness, energy, stability, good food, just good energy. You just need a good conversation or you need some good vibes. Go holler at your dude, Darryl, and he'll hit you on one of these levels and you'll be walking away with a smile and a positive impression. I can assure you that. Man,
thank you. And likewise, thank you so much for the opportunity. And we'll have to get together, real life, at Allegro or wherever it is on Tennyson.
Something basic in Denver.
Yeah. But yeah, likewise, I can't think of a better connector and, just overall positive, holistic, healthy, genuine mindset other than yours. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your good words, your time and energy. Go check out what Darryl has going on. And maybe we'll cast in about a year and check in and see how things have grown and changed and shifted.
I'd love that. And as we speak, they're coming out with new products as well. So I would love to come back and be like, this is what we did in that time. And it's really cool.
Let's do it. We'll talk more about that process too, because I think people don't understand how hard it is to get like the good food and all the infrastructure. I don't know if that's as fun of a energy conversation, but I think it's super fascinating. So maybe we'll lean into that next time too.
Sounds good.
All right, Darryl, I appreciate you. Take care.
Yeah, likewise. You too. Thanks.
thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.